This popular mobile game started in 2009. It's also the first in the world that got over 1 billion downloads. Well, yes, we are talking about Angry Birds, that game where you slingshot animated Angry Birds at enemy green pigs to save their eggs. In this morning shot special, we bring you on an exclusive journey into the heart of this mega hit game with its original creator, Peter Vesterbacka, who's a former brand ambassador of Rovio Entertainment, or better known as the Mighty Eagle. Peter, turning back the clock a little, when you first
Mhm.
created Angry Birds, how did you marry your inspiration with what you think will be palatable to the masses?
Yeah, so I mean, actually, Angry Birds got started out of like the characters. So Jaakko Iisalo, game designer at Rovio, he had been drawing these bird characters for many, many years, and then he was pitching this kind of like new idea for to the rest of the team, and then people didn't care too much about like the gameplay and all of that, but they or let's say everybody fell in love with the characters and said that we have to build a game around those birds, and that's kind of like then what happened over the next 8 months, and then during that time, like okay, the green pigs appeared because of course everybody nowadays knows that like you have birds, eggs, pigs stealing eggs, so like the green pig stealing eggs, so hence Angry Birds, and that's kind of like also like the story of the game. And even today, I mean, I left Rovio like many years ago, but anyway, even today get asked, yeah, on a daily basis that like, why are the birds angry? And I think that this is also like example of like a great brand that it begs for like a question. And in this case, about why the birds are angry. And once you ask that question, then the brand is stuck in your head forever. So I think that's also kind of like a big part of like what made Angry Birds successful. That Angry Birds now, of course, that's kind of like a usual like combination of words. But before Angry Birds, then you get this question that like, what Angry Birds, like, what is going on here? So I think that's there are many like things that contributed to the success. But yeah, it all started with the bird characters themselves.
We're very curious here, Peter. How long did it take to conceptualize it?
Mhm.
And what kind of inputs did you have along the way?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it took 8 months to build the game, but I mean, if you look at kind of like the Rovio story, I mean, that goes back, like 6 years before Angry Birds. So the company built 51 games in the 6 years before, and Angry Birds was not the first or second or third, but it was actually the 52nd game. So you could say that it was kind of like an overnight success story that took a few years. And I think that's very typical for like any success story that you have to learn how to walk before you can run, and all of that. So you could say that Rovio took a long time learning how to make fantastic games. And yeah, then with Angry Birds, kind of like everything just like clicked, and it's a combination of many things that then made it this kind of like massive success that it like then became and continues to be. So I think that you can't kind of like say that okay, we did this one thing right, but it was like many things that you had to get right, and then things just kind of like took off from there.
Following the initial success, more than 20 other versions were created, and that's not including other spin offs, TV series, and even two
Mhm.
movies. So, Peter, after hitting such high success, what is the biggest challenge there when it comes to refreshing the content? Do the newer versions also reflect the way people consume game content?
Mhm. Yeah, but I think that again, it's really always about making use of kind of like the brand. So once you have success, I think that at least my philosophy has always been that then you kind of like have to make sure that that brand becomes part of like everyday life. So you can like wake up with the brand, you fall asleep with the brand, and that's kind of like pretty much what we did then with Angry Birds. That we took that brand everywhere, not just games, but I mean like tons of different like consumer products. Yeah, you mentioned like animations, movies, everything, and I think that that is kind of like really how you build brands nowadays. And of course, Angry Birds was one of the first brands that they kind of like started as a mobile game and then kind of like went everywhere. And I think this is something that will also, I mean, we'll see in some other examples, but I think that we will see many more. And of course, mobile has become kind of like the dominant, platform. So again, that's where most playtime happens. And I mean, it's pretty obvious. Why? Because I mean nowadays everybody's carrying like a smart phone with them, and this is something that of course has changed since like the iPhone came out, all of that. So the market is massive. You have billions of devices out there, and as you always have that device with you, then you have an opportunity to for example play games.
You've since built up decades of experience developing games, and of course, things have changed so much from back in the day when we had handheld game devices, right? The much simpler
Yeah.
ones like Tetris, for example. What are the biggest
Uh-huh.
changes you're noticing right now when it comes to game design and capabilities?
Yeah, a lot has changed, like over the years. And when Angry Birds first came out, I mean, then you still had like premium content. People were paying for games, but nowadays, of course, if you look at mobile games, they're all like free to play, meaning that the game is free to download, and you then, if you like the game, you keep it. You might, end up paying for some items. In the game, and you might watch some ads and stuff like that. But basically, all the games are free, and they are free to play. So I think that's really like the dominant design. Of course, then the devices have become more capable. We have like bigger screens and more like power, better networks, like all of that. So of course that provides for like a richer experience. But fundamentally, I mean, mobile games are still really all about like being able to like quickly boot up the game, play for a few minutes when you're like waiting in line, or like you have like a bit of like downtime. So I think that's like the kind of one of the most important things, that you want to get into the game quickly, and then also be able to get out of it, quickly if it's your turn, like at the restaurant or whatever where you're waiting. So I think that's important. But then of course with the more capable devices, I mean, you have bigger games, and it used to be that, if you want to play kind of like real games, you play on your, sitting on your couch at home and in front of your like PlayStation or Xbox or whatnot. But I think that nowadays, even if you're like at home, you're playing on your mobile device because it's there, it's convenient, and it doesn't require like a lot of effort. So that's something that's there, and I think that then kind of like going forward. We'll see, but I think that the games industry is always the first to start using kind of like the new features, and the new technologies coming out, and looking forward to the AR, like augmented reality, and we start to see like some of that happening. But we'll see, like what new devices hit the market, in the future. But no matter what, I think that this like free to play as kind of like a model is here to stay, and that is just like making it so much easier for people to kind of like just like download a game and try it out and all of that. So but I expect the games industry to be first adapting like new technologies as it's always been. So we can expect to see fantastic kind of like new games, fantastic new experiences, and you'll see the kind of like the new technologies being used first in game.
But what about the more detailed, graphics and all that within the game itself, in the content, bright colors, characters? What are the changes you're noticing?
I don't think that. I think that the main things really has been that of course there's many more devices and many more people who play games. So I think this is something that has really changed. I mean, you could say that the games industry had this kind of like Angry Birds moment, because before that, we still used to talk about people who played games as gamers. But of course, what has happened now is that everybody plays games. So it's not like it's a little bit like that we never talked about like people watching TV, that they are like TV viewers. I mean, of course, everybody like watches TV and movies and whatnot. And I think nowadays it's just like everybody playing games. So I think that is something that has really happened, and it's like games are now so mainstream that like it's just like normal, and like everybody playing games. So that's kind of like maybe the biggest change. And then okay, yes, there's more capable devices, there's better screens, more power, you can produce like richer experiences. But like at the core, I think mobile games, most successful ones are the ones that are kind of like easy to enjoy, fast to boot up, fast to kind of like get out of also when you need to. So I think that's kind of like really kind of like one of the most important things.
So, what's the next move you're expecting from Sega?
So yeah, I think that it's like anybody's guess what like Sega and what Rovio will do next. But I think that enjoying the games. Of course, we're expecting great new games, and that's something that always looking forward to see what they come up with. So I think that's kind of like what all of us are hoping.
Okay, as the brains behind the original Angry Birds, how lucrative exactly is the game developing industry right now? And could a potential strategy to ride on Angry Birds' earlier success work?
Yeah, I mean it's a huge brand. I mean there's like huge awareness. So I think that there's a lot that you can do with that, and a lot has been done. So I think that again, the games industry. I mean, if you look at like overall, it's the biggest part of it, like the whole entertainment industry. So it's much bigger than movies, much bigger than music or anything else. So it's super important industry, and I think that you can expect the games industry to grow. I mean, of course, there was like a massive like peak during the pandemic. People had lots of time to play games, and now a lot of companies are then kind of like suffering a bit from kind of like the drop in use, because now we don't have the pandemic and people have like other things to do than stay at home and play games. But I think that if you look at long term like trend, I think that the games industry will continue to grow. As I said, it's the biggest in form of entertainment already, and of that kind of like entertainment, and like if you look at the games industry, mobile is like where it's at. That's where we have the biggest consumption, the biggest like playtime, and I expect that to kind of like continue to be the case for like the future. So again, I think that looking at like Sega acquiring Rovio, and like we have had other acquisitions in Finland, like Zynga acquiring Small Giant Games. So like one of the unicorns in gaming in Finland. I should say one of the many unicorns in gaming in Finland. So we have very high talent density when it comes to games, and I think that it's like very kind of like much to be expected, that of course Sega needs to be there, because I mean like everybody's there in Finland developing games. I mean Sony acquired Housemarque, one of the like early success stories in Finnish gaming industry. So you could say that everybody's there. So again, it's not like a huge surprise that Sega shows up to the party as well. And I look forward to seeing many more successful games coming out of Finland. So I think that's kind of like what the Finnish games industry is all about, creating these massive hits for the global market. And the talent is definitely there, and it's growing very, very fast. So again, welcoming Sega to the party, and I expect to see like many more people kind of like joining, and I expect to see many more huge success stories coming out of the Finnish like gaming industry.
So, after leaving Rovio, you started and invested in a few games and educational startups. What will it take for the smaller game developers to go big, given the stiff competition?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, at the core, I mean, you have to make great games, and I think that's very, very important. But then also, who cares if you made the best game ever if nobody knows about it? So I think that you need to also make great games. You have to have fantastic branding, fantastic marketing. So you need to get a lot of things right. So that goes for like the small guys, and especially for like the smaller startups, that yes, you need to create fantastic game, you need to stand out. I think that is like super important. I mean, the heyday of like mobile games, and like when everybody's getting into that, we had like 700 new games hitting the app store like every day. And of course, when you have like hundreds of new games hitting the market every day, then you have to make sure that not only you make great games, but you make games that stand out. And I think this is really like super important. But I think that there's plenty of room for people to create fantastic new games, but also fantastic new success stories. So there's no reason why that wouldn't kind of like be the case. And I think still smaller studios, smaller companies definitely have a lot of opportunity. Yes, there's more competition, and yes, there's been consolidation, but I still think that there's lots of room for making great games, making kind of like new innovation in games. So again, I really think that there's no kind of like into the opportunity, but of course, you have to make great games. That's what it's all about.
So, what makes a great game, Peter? What do you envision as the next
Mm.
big game?
I mean, it's like I think that it's like super difficult to kind of like to predict the future. So it's much better to kind of like make it happen. So I think that then again, working with many game studios in Finland and elsewhere, I think that working on hopefully making that kind of like next big thing. And I think it's very difficult to say then what exactly it will be. I mean, if we knew how to make hit games, then everybody would just be making hit games, and obviously that's not like the case. So yeah, I mean, you have to assemble kind of like the best possible team, lots of different talent. I think having diverse teams very important. When I was at Rovio, we had 47 different like nationalities working at the companies. Now there's more than 50. So yeah, people from different backgrounds, super important when you want to create game market. So I think that the games industry is evolving, always, and there is no kind of like simple answer that like this is the recipe for. Again, that we just need to keep at it, and again, see how it goes. So there's no like easy answer to how to make a hit game.
Do you think game designers are moving to something more futuristic, especially with AI, AR, and VR?
AI will be huge. I mean, already is huge in many areas of games. You don't necessarily like see it, but I think that there's already been like a lot of AI applied to how we do user acquisition and things like that. So how to optimize, that. So that's been used for a long time. But I also think that now, with AI and you see, things like ChatGPT, moving. Forward like leaps and bounds. So like it's really advancing very very fast. And again, AI has always been used in games. So all the like non-play playable characters are controlled by AI. So the games industry has kind of like been leading the charge when it comes to kind of like applying AI. So again, expect to see a lot in that area. Then VR, AR. Okay, yeah, we'll see. So far hasn't VR. It's always like this will be the year and this will be. But I think that most people have been carried away by VR and like whatever like technology
Right.
buzzword of the day. But I think that's again mobile is at the core of and is the biggest volume in games, and I expect that to continue to be the case. So that's where I would like put my money.
Thank you very much for sharing your insights with us today, Peter. And that was Peter Vesterbacka, former Mighty Eagle of Angry Birds.
Money FM 89.3.